and welcome to the 2023 Next Forum. I'm Charlotte Bates, your host for the sports panel. It's going to be split up into two sections. The first is going to start with a one-on-one exclusive interview with a big name in football, and then we're going to go on to do a panel with three guests on the inner story, diving into the life of athletes. And I think it's fair to say that as sports fans, we very rarely get to see what's truly behind an athlete's story. So often we see them just as their achievements and the professional accolades. But today is going to be different. Today, we are going to look at who they are as people. They're going to get personal with their story, and we're going to look behind, lift the lid, and look behind their story. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the stage Frédéric Oumar KANOUTÉ, who is former football star and La Liga legend. Frédéric, thank you. Please sit on the green seat. Well, I'm just going to make a quick introduction because for everyone who doesn't know, which I'm sure is very few people, but Frédéric, he's done huge amounts for the sports industry. He played in the Premier League, La Liga, and Ligue 1, and for Sevilla you won, of course, 2 UEFA Cups and 2 Copa del Rey. In 2017, you became Africa Footballer of the Year, so absolutely fantastic. Let's get started. Of course, we all want to delve into Frédéric's story, but I think before we go into that, what I really want you to do is any initial thoughts, any initial advice to aspiring athletes. I think we've got quite a few in the audience. So any first words before we get into the panel?
In 27, African Footballer of the Year. I'm older than what you think.
Well, you look young, so it's all good.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Salam alaikum. Very happy to be here. Well, this is a very broad question you're asking me. When I'm asked about talking to the youth, I mean, I can only take from my own experience, and whoever can take it from, that's okay. I would say, I mean, whether it is in sport or in anything, I would say you need a big part of love and passion for what you do, because, of course, you're going to need to go through a bumpy road sometimes, but when you really love what you do, it becomes easier. So the first thing is that you need to really have the passion and love for what you do. Then, of course, determination and resilience, because as I said, the road is often bumpy, more often than not. And you need, of course, to carry on, don't give up. And I would say as well, confidence, lot of confidence in what you can do. Sometimes we are very much focused on the result, but the result doesn't belong to us. I mean, especially when you come from a certain faith, you know that God's going to give you the result you deserve, but you're only asked to put the best of your effort into it. So a lot of confidence in that and humility. So you need a good blend of confidence and humility, not to reach a stage where overconfidence makes you feel arrogant or something like this. In terms of patience and resilience as well, I would say, especially in an age now of, I would say, instant gratification and you know, the high technology of things, everything goes fast. I realize that we want things quickly. So the advice I would say to the youth is that normally good, lasting results take time. So don't give up, work hard. It's not going to come all of a sudden overnight. And another thing I would say is reframe your intentions. Reframe your intention, know what you really want. Look for higher purpose. I think this is something very important. And for that, sometimes we need to pause, to reflect, and have a kind of introspection in a world, again, with social media, etc., of hyper exhibition. Sometimes we need to stop, reflect, and what do I want? How do I want to be remembered? What kind of legacy I want to leave behind? And I'm not talking about the external, superficial legacy. I'm talking about really how you want to be remembered with people, what's going to stay behind you. And at the end of the day, your job or your career as a footballer or whatever is only what you do for a certain period of time, but it cannot define you. Or do you want that only to define you, or you want to be a citizen? Because at the end of the day, you're gonna be a footballer only a few years, but you're gonna be a citizen and a person all your life, and you have to remember that. And you're gonna obviously, in my case, you know, I'm a Muslim. I believe in Allah, and I'm remembered. Allah reminds me in every single page of the Holy Book in the Quran that I will be called back to Him. So this is good. Remember to, okay, football is what I do, but maybe I need a higher purpose. And I think it helps you reframe and recalibrate your intentions in whatever you do.
Well, talking about your legacy, you started just as a kid playing football on a street and then became a La Liga legend. Talk to me about those early memories. Did you always dream of becoming a pro, and do you have that belief in yourself from the very beginning?
Yeah, so the very beginning is like every kid or of the area I come from. I mean, I come from I would say, humble but not poor background. I grew up in France, and in my neighborhood, I was like playing football. I can't even remember why I started playing football. It's almost kind of innate to me. I just like, before even I could walk, my mom told me that I was already trying to kick everything in the, so she took me out very early stage, and I started to play football with my friends. And most of us, I mean, in the place I come from, that's how we started, really enjoying football. I'm also, I have to say, I'm very grateful to my parents who never put pressure on me. This is something as well that is important to say nowadays. I mean, I meet a lot of parents. They dream, they have dreams for their kids, but sometimes they overdo it. It's good to support your kid, but I think sometimes we need to not put too much pressure on them. And my parents never like pushed me to become a footballer. They just wanted me to be a balanced kid, to do what I love. And as I said at the beginning, I really loved playing football. I never really thought I was going to become a professional footballer until quite a late stage. But you start with doing seriously and passionately what you love, and things come naturally. Of course, it's gonna require a lot of effort, but as I said at the beginning, if you really love and enjoy what you do, it becomes easier.
Well, you went from playing local football, club football, to Liga. Talk to me about that transition. What were the biggest obstacles? Obviously, you said you didn't have as much pressure from your parents, but then did you start feeling that pressure when you actually started to progress and climb up the ladder?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot throughout my career. You start being not nervous, but you discover, and after you kind of learn to become a professional. And it's funny because now when I speak to the youngsters, I said to them that you need to become a professional before you actually become a professional. Being professional is an attitude, is a way to approach things, a way to sacrifice for what you want to do and what you want to achieve. So I learned a lot. I remember being very inconsistent, whether it is when I started in Lyon, in England. I have some very good memories from my time in Lyon, West Ham, Tottenham. But it's true that I really kind of bloomed, if I can say like this, in Seville. So it was a process, but I never stopped learning from that experience. Yeah.
Well, you talk about your time in the Premier League, known to be one of the fastest-paced leagues in the world. How did you transition to a adapt to that type of style. And mental health has been at the forefront over the past few years in sport. Did you have any struggles in that side? I know you've often been told that you had a laid-back approach. Was that hard to keep that during the time in a new league?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think it's in England. I was quite young. I was 21, 22 when I arrived in London. I was alone, living alone, and I think that's when I became a man. When I started, yeah, the fast pace of football in England. It's very rough as well, very tough. I was often playing as a lone striker there and receiving a lot of bumps. 20 years ago, it was even much more physical than what it is now. There was no VAR at the time, so the defenders were like, yeah, could do a lot of things to you. So yeah, I learned a lot, yeah, as you said, yeah, sometimes I was described as someone a little bit laid back because I was more counting on my natural talent than putting extra effort to it. That's what I said earlier. So I learned to really work hard. Because sometimes talent is not enough. Not sometimes, most of the time, talent is not enough. So this is also a message that is very important. Just don't rely on what you're simply good at. It's gonna, if you want to achieve things, it's gonna require a lot of talent, a lot of sacrifice, a lot of, I would say, regular consistency in order to achieve things. And I learned throughout that process. But England was really my formative years, I would say. Yeah.
I love that. Talent is not enough. And you didn't rely on just talent when you played for Sevilla in La Liga. You're such a legend over there. Talk to me about your best memories, your biggest highlights. I saw that. I was looking back to some of your previous goals, some of your highlights from the league, and that Getafe goal in 2010 just really epitomizes who you are as a player. What's the highlight for you?
Well, people, when they think of me, most of the time they remember Seville, because, yeah, that's true. That's where I had more success. I won some trophies. I mean, in the first 2 years I played in Seville, I had already won like 5 major trophies, national and European trophies. So it was quite, I couldn't even like catch up with my mind. It was going almost too fast. So it was like really, really incredible experience. And I would say all the hard years, the hard sacrifice, I would say, that I've spent training every day and not giving up, some bad moments, some injuries, of course. And when you arrive to that point, I remember when I won the first Europa League in 2006, it was like, wow. So all I did was not for nothing, basically. But again, you need patience and resilience. Imagine I had given up before that. So yeah, sometimes we want things fast, but they don't come necessarily fast. And it's only, yeah, with 27, 28, at 28 years old when I started to win trophies. So yeah, it's an encouragement to never give up. And after that, I won other trophies. So it was really 7 years I spent in Seville was really memorable, and I keep close to my heart, yeah.
So where does that patience and resilience come from? Have you always had it, or did you have to develop it throughout your career?
I think you develop it. I think you develop it. I think it's part also of your upbringing, your education, of your faith as well. And as I said earlier, when you want good, lasting things, sustainable things, it requires patience. You realize in the world that every time you want quick and fast thing, normally when you think about it, everybody can think about it. When you want fast things and that have this instant gratification, most of the time it's not something good. But when you want something that lasts, that going to be beneficial to you and people around you, and you're going to build up something generally it takes time, it takes effort, sacrifice. And of course, you grow and you learn from your mistakes. I've done plenty of mistakes, and yeah, this is the kind of experience you have to grow from.
Well, you talk about those mistakes. What springs to mind? What did you have to overcome?
Yeah, I think it was I was reacting very fast when I was younger. I was making decisions very fast as well. And as I said, we want things sometimes too quick. And when you don't have it your way, you tend to react in a negative way. But it was coming. It's like you cutting short the good that is coming to you because you lack patience. And you have to start from scratch anyway. And when you start from scratch anyway, you're gonna have to be patient again. So that's that's what you build on. That's the kind of character you build on with a little bit more of experience.
I think patience is something we all struggle with, but I was actually speaking to a professional basketball player. He's very young, he's 24, and I was saying that I was going to interview, and he told me to ask this question, so I've got to pose it to you. Now, you've had a huge career, and looking back, what's the one thing that you wish you'd learnt or had known when you were younger and when you were just starting out?
It's interesting because, yeah, this question is very interesting because it's in two levels, I would say. First of all, yeah, I wished I had learned how to be professional early and before becoming actually professional. So I don't know if it makes sense. It's like, for me, professional is not a status, is not a financial status, is a state of mind, is a mindset, is how you approach things, how much determination, sacrifice, and work ethics you have. So maybe, yeah, I would have put a little bit more of that if I had known what I know today or what I have learned when I became actually professional. And that's something I can convey to the youth now in the work. Maybe we're going to talk about that later in the work I do now. And also, it's strange because after passed all my coaching badges, and I was saying to one of my instructors that if I knew when I was a footballer what I know now, in terms of what I've learned as a coach, I would have been a better player. So it's in two levels. I would have been better as a youth if I knew what I know as a professional, and better as a professional if I knew what I know now as a coach. So yeah, it's a never-ending learning process.
Well, we're going to go on to what you're doing now, but talk to me about your international career. You achieved so much club level, but you also did in a different way internationally.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if we have some Malians here tonight, probably. But
Hopefully someone.
unfortunately, I couldn't win anything with my national team. I decided to play for Mali in 2004. But it's going to come soon, inshallah, hopefully. And not me as a player, obviously, but hopefully the next generations. And yeah, internationally, I would say, yeah, with Seville, I think the two UEFA Cup, now called the Europa League, that I've won with them is something that, yeah, remains for me as like a very important achievement. Yeah.
Well, looking forward, you've done so much already for the next generation. You talk about Malians and African football players finding it very difficult to turn professional. What are you doing to ease that process?
So now, as I said earlier, I've passed my my coaching badges, not because I'm a coach now, but because I was always passionate and interested in youth development. Whether it is through my charity work that I do in Africa, in Mali more specifically, but also within football, I was really interested in how developing and nurturing the next talent, the next generation. So I wanted to know what it is to be on the other side of that line, and how could they benefit from my experience. So I've decided to go throughout the process of passing my coaching badges, and now I'm a consultant for a couple of academies in Africa. So basically to help these clubs develop the players better. So it's not only on, but also off the field. try to make those structures a little bit more professional, the way they approach the youth development, but also in terms of capacities, how to make those academies more efficient in the way they train the players. So yeah, that's what I do. I'm a bit like kind of a coach, a mentor for those academy, an advisor to those academies, the president of those academies, and yeah, so it's just passing on that experience to the next generation.
Well, you talk about that support both on and off the fields, particularly in a world of social media. How important is it to get that support outside when a lot of football players have to not only experience abuse from how they're playing, but also from a racism level? Did you ever experience something like that? And what needs to happen to be able to combat that issue in today's world, which seems absolutely crazy that in the 21st century, we're still hearing monkey chants and awful rants on the field. What do you think needs to happen to really stop racism in sport?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, we have to remember that sometimes sports, because it's so popular, and specifically like football is so popular, it acts like a kind of a, I would say, magnifying glass of the reality. So if it happens in the football field, it means that it happens in society. So we shouldn't forget that, because sometimes there's a lot of noise about, oh, there was some monkey chants, etc., and some stuff like this. But we have to remember that we have our brothers and sisters that are like suffering from that in their normal lives, and sometimes I think the most important thing is that we need to combat that in society, and it takes time. It takes time, and not only jumping on the bandwagon when it happens on the field, because this is just a superficial part of what's rooted in society. So I think to be able to get rid of that, it's gonna require much more. Don't get me wrong, all these initiatives on the football field, taking the knee, all these kind of things are positive, but we have to understand and not be hypocritical about it. That is not enough to combat racism, and it's going to require a lot of, I would say, political and social courage to be able to change those things.
And for change to happen, does it need to start at the clubs, or is it for the organizations on a larger scale to really help combat the racism?
Yeah, as I said, it has to be like bottom up and top to the bottom as well. So everybody has to work hand in hand. The bigger organizations like FIFA, UEFA, all the federations of each country have to work on that, because as soon as you see a certain inconsistency in this, you're going to see that it's going to happen again and again. So yeah, we still have to be optimistic and especially do our part.
And my last question, Frédéric, where does the future lie for you? You talk about your coaching and everything you're doing in charity. Is it always going to be in football? Do you have this passion that's never going to die?
Yeah, I think football is going to stay, whether I want it or not. It's funny because the other day I was mentioning to a friend, I'm always, we were talking about dreams, and I think 90% of the time, or even 95% of the time, within my dreams, football pops up like this, and I think it's it means that it has been because I've played since a very young age, and now I'm still involved in football. So yeah, it's a very, very big part of my life. But what I've always tried to do, even when I was playing, is that using it as a tool as well. As I said earlier, it's football. I was never satisfied as football defining me entirely. I think at the end of the day, something you have to have bigger objectives, higher objectives, higher goals in life. And if you can use whatever you do for a higher purpose and for the good of society across the board, I think that's something I would like to be remembered for, and that would be my advice as well for the youth.
Well, thank you so much. It's been great to talk to you, Frédéric.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think,
Thank you.
yeah, a round of applause is really needed. But if you could like move away.